What if justice wasn't just about systems, but about the soul? Welcome to the Spiritual Justice Show with me, Eric S. Lee. You've heard me say it before. For too long, we thought restorative justice alone could save us. But repairing harm without changing systems doesn't end the cycle. Social justice fights for equity, but without spirit, the work becomes a grind. Transformative justice seeks culture change, but without compassion, it struggles to hold. Spiritual justice completes the circle. It heals the heart while changing the system. It restores dignity while shifting culture. It brings spirit back into justice. Each week, I'll bring together leaders, healers, and change makers to explore a new vision of justice. Restorative, transformative, and deeply spiritual. And people like you, spiritual justice warriors who choose courage, compassion, and creativity in action. Here we are. Thank you very much, everybody. Thanks for joining us. I am really excited about the show today. I am going off on my own. Thank you, Dr. Pat. We've got a wonderful guest today, and let me talk about this. In this episode of the Spiritual Justice Show, we are honored to welcome Deauntra Smith, CEO of When the Leaves Restorative Consulting, a visionary leader in restorative justice whose work centers healing, accountability, and liberation as pathways to lasting community transformation. Deauntra is I'm cooked on spiritual justice. Sorry, Deauntra. Deauntra is a restorative justice practitioner, educator, and community leader who is deeply committed to building spaces rooted in belonging, connection, and accountability. He currently serves as the acting director of Belonging and Connection and previously worked as assistant director of restorative justice for the School District of Philadelphia, where he supported district-wide implementation, helped lead restorative justice research in schools, and contributed to the publication of 2 restorative justice guidebooks. Deauntra grew up in the DMV, DC, Maryland, and Virginia area, raised by young parents alongside his grandmother, an experience that shaped how he thinks about community, care, and shared responsibility. His work is grounded in equity literacy, cultural literacy, and racial literacy. And he's especially focused on pushing conversations beyond traditional DEI towards practices rooted in liberation, healing, and real accountability. Outside of work, Deauntra is a husband, a father of 2, a football coach. Deauntra, we'll talk about Super Bowl picks in a minute, and a lifelong comic book fan. Those roles show up in how he leads through mentorship, storytelling, and imagination. At the heart of his work is a belief that restorative and progressive discipline, strong relationships, and honest conversations are how we create systems that are not just equitable, but truly human. On this show, Deauntra invites viewers and listeners to rethink how we respond to harm, strengthen community, and imagine what liberation can look like in practice. Deauntra, thank you so much for being here. And I got more about you. I didn't want to take the whole show with just the lead in. So I'm going to get back into actually the organization in a little bit. But thank you so much for being here. I've been excited about having you. And let me tell you something. As soon as I was conceptualizing this show, and you never know how you're going to impact people when you meet, I was thinking, when we have guests on this show, and you're the first guest we've had, we've just been doing our own thing for the first 6 episodes. But this one is like, you were on my mind. It's like, Deauntra. And I met you in that workshop, a restorative justice workshop in DC, I believe it was, a couple years ago. And just sitting in those sessions with you, the input and feedback you had, the resources you were providing, you could just tell this gentleman is plugged in. And so I am so glad you're here. So before we jump in, you're a football coach. You're a football guy. It's funny because Dr. Pat She is from, she spent time in the Pacific Northwest, so she's a big Seahawks fan. I wish she was here this week to talk about her Seahawks. But who you got? Who you got this week, sir?
To be honest, I got the Seahawks this week. I do. Um, I love their coach and way he defense wins Super Bowls, and that defense is woo. That's the me and my dad had this debate all the time. He think Drake May is the best thing since sliced bread, and I'm like,
Mhm.
nah, 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 nah. For
Yeah,
me, definitely the Seattle Seahawks. I don't understand how they have the number one run offense, but also have the number one wide receiver and yards leading. So that's a very interesting point right there. It's like number one run offense, but you have the number one wide receiver. I'm like, all right. And him man to
yeah,
man, he I just don't think New England has 10 points ain't gonna beat Seattle. I just think that they're hitting on every cylinder. And he's a guy
right.
that went through the high school, their head coach went through high school, college, NFL, back to college, back to the NFL. So like he's been around and he's young and he's innovative. I just think that they're rolling on too many cylinders.
Thank you for that. And I'm going to have to do a shout out because I'm a Michigan dude. I'm a Detroit guy. And so I'm a
Yeah.
Michigan guy. So I was there when Mike McDaniel got his first coordinator job with Jim Harbaugh. And what
Okay.
he did, when he did there, it's like soon as he got there, that's the first year they went to the college football playoffs. And then brother John pulled it because Jim took him from the Ravens,
Yeah.
went to Michigan, and then John saw what he did and took him back. So
Yeah.
we'll talk more football later. We're going to change the world a different way right now. So let me
Yes.
just talk a little bit more about some of the information you sent me about your organization, and then I got some questions for you because the work you're doing and your approach to it, I just really respect it. And I reached out to you before for advice on the work we do, but let me get into it. Grounded in the truth that hurt people, but people heal people. DeAndre's approach focuses on establishing community culture through community meetings, community building circles, and restorative conversations. His work invites schools and organizations to move beyond compliance and discipline and instead cultivate spaces where young people learn, practice, and ultimately become experts in restorative philosophy themselves, fostering ownership, belonging, and shared responsibility within their communities. Together, this is quoting DeAndre, we can explore essential questions at the heart of spiritual and restorative justice. Where when harm occurs, how do we promote both healing and accountability? What community are we restoring our students back to? And how do we remove the barriers within ourselves and within systems that prevent true connection and growth? DeAndre reminds us that liberation is not just personal, it's collective, and that when we free ourselves, we create the conditions for youth to truly live free as well. Now, let me build on that a little bit. So, with spiritual justice and this concept we came up with this show, there's two foundational blocks to it for us. On the one side is the belief that every young person within them has the seed for greatness, for contribution, for stepping into why they were sent here to the planet to be themselves leaders and community builders and contributors to making society better. We believe that that is within all young people, and it somehow gets socialized or traumatized or toxicity out of them. And so then on the other side of that spiritual justice foundational piece is those adults, those of us who have been on a path of healing and restoration, and sometimes it's a spiritual path. And we reach the point where there's no place else to go. But and people are always looking for that next step to being more peaceful or more enlightenment or more connected or all that stuff. And we believe that next step is actually reaching out and mentoring and connecting with young people. And so I think that that resonates with the work you do. And that is why we thought it was a fit for you to be on the show. So let me give you an opportunity, DeAndre. Just tell everybody about your organization and the work that you're doing.
Right. So, right now I have my own organization, but I'm also part of the Shipley School. So, as the CEO of When the Leaves, that is really for me to be able to expand out and help other people. I really created that organization because I realized after my first time experiencing NACRJ that other people are thinking about the same work that I'm thinking about it. And it's a little bit of politics being able to be part of an institution and trying to help people. Then financially things kick in, and and for me, me and you had our first conversation. It was like, nah, I don't need to get paid. I just want to share the work, right? This work is not for me to own. This is for everybody. I'm just the messenger of the work. So being able to create my organization, also that organization ties into my youth football organization, so it's kind of all wrapped up into one there. And then what I'm doing at the Shipley School right now is trying to show a different understanding of relationships, being able to say, hey, if we cultivate relationships at the central level, meaning I can be in the room with you and have an honest dialogue with you and still have unconditional love, that it can like water, right? It can ricochet through and everyone can be able to sense that. Hopefully that other independent schools pick it up and see what I'm trying to establish. The Shipley School has allowed me to create a guidebook in this work, so that we have systematized it. So it's in advisory, it's in the homeroom, it's inside our discipline, it's inside our community building. So being able to see the work flourish and to go out into the world from something that started off as a thought um in my mind, and then being able to learn more about this work under Josh Staub, and just to see it just marinate and people pick it up. Like the goal was to plant the seed, and I would never expect the tree to grow this fast. But I think in a time where the world needs someone to be a voice of reason and healing, that this is the perfect time.
That is fantastic. I don't want to, I want to just reflect back and elevate the type of individual that Deauntra is. So I met him at the conference in DC, and again was so taken by him that I wanted to reach out. So we got information, we exchanged some information, and at the time we were starting our implementation with Canyon City Schools, which thank you for your help. We're now into our second year into that, almost completing our second year, and it's going fantastic. And so the advice and guidance you gave us was just golden, and we appreciate it. And this is Deauntra. Deauntra's like, look, man, I'm on the East Coast, but if you need me, just call me and I'll fly out. I'm like, what? Who is this guy? I mean, and he's like, no, we're not going to charge. We just want to get to work. It's like this young man is real, right? And what the planet needs with everything that's going on in our country and in the world right now, we need more individuals just willing to reach out a hand and help, like Deauntra is doing, and the wonderful work he's doing. Deauntra, do me a favor. Tell everybody how they can reach you if they want to get a hold of you and do some work with you.
Yeah, everyone can reach me at Deauntra, Deauntra at whentheleaves.org. It's all together. Again, it's Deauntra at whentheleaves.org. We're gonna get into what the leaves mean a little bit later, so that's heavy to my heart. And they can follow me at Smith the Educator on Instagram.
Great. Thank you. Thank you so much for that. And so this is Eric Lee. I am with Deauntra Smith, CEO of When the Leaves. And you can reach me at eric.lee at fullcirclerj.org. Now, you that was a perfect segue because that was one of my questions. Tell us about When the Leaves and what that means and what the significance of it is.
So it's after my late great grandmother, Clarice Colby. When we talk about spiritual woman, a devoted Seventh-day Adventist, a
Mhm.
woman that at her funeral, hundreds of people were there, to a point where it was overflowing in the church. Her community impact was something that was unspeakable. A God-fearing woman that you just had to meet her to understand. She got a chance to hold my son, and she was in her 90s when she passed away, I believe 98. And she got a chance to hold my son, hold my niece. And the way that she took care of the community. Actually was the first person to teach me how to read and write. I was a little bit behind. I was dyslexic, am dyslexic, and she figured it out and started to navigate how to teach me how to write and read. And she actually had the notebook still in her house, so when we went down to visit, she could show my kids.
Mhm.
So it's something that was is special to me. But she always had this saying that when the leaves are moving, you're driving too fast, and that was about us being able to stop and see everybody for who they are, acknowledge them, have a conversation with them. Also, I have a tattoo behind my ear, and it's a great white oak tree. And inside her front yard, there was a great white oak tree, and we used
Mhm.
to sit underneath of it while she used to read Bible stories to us, sing spiritual hymns with us. We used to go pick strawberries and berries and just have conversations with her. I remember sitting on her lap and just talking to her about life. Um,
Mhm.
Really remarkable. I remember the one time at Thanksgiving, um, we were talking about what we thankful for, and she said that she was thankful for me and seeing how successful I was becoming and the man that I turned into. So it was something that and she finished it with that quote. So it was something that I wanted to honor her with.
That is beautiful. She sounds like a wonderful, wonderful woman, and she should be commended both for who she was in the community, and once again, uh, for creating the man that she created. So yeah, thank you for sharing that with us, DeAndre. So let's get into something a little bit here. We touched on something and looking at the work you do and looking at your philosophical approach and one of the programs you talked about, and I'm going to open it up for you to talk about that in a little bit later. But one of the things that we believe, and I'm going to just talk about my spiritual path and my path to success a little bit. And so I have walked a path to success and overcome a lot of some of the same things with the youth that we work with, right? You know, my parents into drugs, toxic environment, violence, gangs, killing all around me, going up, right? And so there was these messages that I was given growing up, and I was talking to somebody in my community now who was white, and telling them about my upbringing and how in the '60s, you know, looking back, I was raised as a second class citizens because my parents, deep in their being, believed they were second class citizens because of their experiences, right? And so overcoming that, and it's taken work. I mean, I've gotten in trouble. I've been in the darkness. I've been in places, and I've talked about in previous shows, drug addiction and just going off the rails, right? And then healing from that, right? And then being committed to healing my family and my children who come after me so that it's generational healing that takes place. And how that is for me part of a spiritual journey and a spiritual quest and a spiritual realization where there was a moment where I realized, no, I am not a second class citizen. I am a child of God. And as a child of God, I am part of the world. And as that, what can stop me? Right? What can stop me if that is my true identity? And after being able to take that on, my life took off, right? And then I wanted to share it. And so then we get into places like we're in our culture right now, where there's this struggle and this tussle between races, right? There's brown people and black people and then white people feel threatened about, you know, replacement theory and all of this stuff. And there's DEI, and they don't want DEI. And so for me, it's a tightrope walk between, yes, there's oppressive systems that are holding people down and keeping them from their greatness and just, you know, fairness, right? And fair opportunities. While at the same time, here's the tightrope. On the other side, the recognition of you can't stop me because I am a child of God, right? And so you got to walk that. You can't go all the way. We need help. We need a hand up. We need opportunities when we know we are the baddest dude walking because that is our divine inheritance, right? So that's a tight walk that we have to walk. And so in the work that I'm doing and what we're trying to accomplish with youth is to get them to realize that same thing that I did, that your original inheritance, who you really are at your core, is a being you can't even imagine. And when you do, you too will become unstoppable young man or young woman. And so, Deauntra, with that, you talked to me about a program that you guys just instituted about blackness as joy instead of toxicity. Did I get that correct?
Yeah, we just develop a course for it in a way that we've been doing our work um at my institution right now. It's about joy with inside the struggle. Um, we just had our Black History Month assembly actually yesterday. But my approach is, and this is going to sound very interesting. So my approach is that Black love is the blueprint to love. And what I mean by that is that when we think about even this country often does not love us, but we tend to love this country. We have people who go and join the military, who go and do this, who find ways to love the country, even though the country doesn't love us. I think about James Baldwin, I think about Fred Hampton and say, hey, like, yes, I'm American, but what is my purpose of being an American? And I think that my understanding of Black joy is actually Black love in the conversation, right? There is no condition to my love. I'm going to be kind to you, but I'm also going to hold you accountable. And I think that that's where people struggle at, is because I can see something happening and give you the same amount of love I give someone else, but also hold you accountable. Accountability looks like a threat when it never been happened before to you. And that's when we get those systems like, oh, the system is oppressive system. And then I try to hold someone accountable. And they're like, oh, it's the replacement theory. Is this is like, no, I'm here because you have a blind spot. I love you enough that I'm going to engage in these conversations. I'm not going to write you off, right? If I write you off, you're going to do more. You're going to do more harm. And I think about my religion background. Like, if Jesus would have wrote people off, where would we have been at? Right? There's a quote inside the Bible that says that Jesus stopped a legion of armies, even though he was being crucified. Like, that's powerful. That he loved us so much that he stopped. What was it, four legions of armies coming to wipe us out? Like, whoa, like love has no divinity, and love is the ultimate goal.
Great. Thank you so much for sharing that. And you brought up that word. And, for me, when I first trained as a restorative justice facilitator, one of the things that really struck me and made me gravitate to it was accountability and responsibility. And that being, again, a cornerstone of what makes it work. And one of the things that I realized, and especially as it related to me working with youth at the time, was people a lot of time take responsibility or accountability, and it's a bad word.
Mm-hmm.
It's a little scary and frightening for some people. And then what they neglect to get out of it, that if you flip over that coin, you can also define that word as self-empowerment.
Yes.
Because as soon as you can take responsibility for it, you can change it. And if you can change it, then you have power over it. And that is one of the things that is part of our work in changing, our community, and thus hopefully changing, having it spread. Like, hopefully, there's people doing work on the West Coast. There's us in the Rocky Mountain region in the middle of the country, and we got Deauntra on the East. Hopefully we can spread this like a positive, joyful virus. And everybody in the country, in this society, can take that on, because we are sorely missing the beauty of it, because the norm so goes against taking responsibility because everybody's trying to get out of trouble. Talk a little bit about that. Just take a couple minutes. We're coming up on break here in the next 3 or 4 minutes. So talk a little bit about your take on that for me, Deauntra.
So I love that you asked that question, because for me, I believe that 80% of this work is looking inwards. And what I mean by that is it's a mirror. You got to hold yourself up to a mirror, and you can't light switch this work. I tell people it's not an on and off. Like I can't choose to be restorative at work and then not be restorative with my kids. I can't choose to see something, some injustice in the store and not say something about it. Like, ooh, that doesn't feel right. Right. For me, this work in its essence is mirror work, but also looking inwards. If I can hold myself accountable, and that's the hardest thing to do, hold yourself accountable. It's to live what you're preaching. For me, it's all about modeling. If I'm going to be restorative, I have to be restorative all the time. And I tell people all the time, my biggest test to me being restorative is my 7-year-old son. That is the biggest test in my life, because I want to be a restorative father. I also want him to grow up as a man where he can test boundaries, push back, have that mirror work. But unfortunately, I'm the first person he tests that on. So I have to be restorative in my conversations. And I overlove him so much that me having a conversation saying I'm disappointed, that's the goal. The goal is to be like, I'm disappointed in that choice. I'm not mad at you. I'm disappointed in you. So that the person is looking into the mirror and saying, man, like, how do I reflect that I'm harming the community, and what resources and what support do I need so that I don't have this happen again? That's the hard part. That part in itself is to get everyone on the same page of how are we actually doing the mirror work. It's easier to build bridges that lead to nowhere. I can build that bridge, but I can also build a bridge that is going to take me to an area where, oh, I'm here. Now I'm coming face to that mirror. Now I can be able to adjust, move, and learn. I often try to ask people, especially in the school systems, if we're in the institution where we're supposed to be educating, isn't it our purpose to allow the child to mess up and then to educate them and give them the accountability so it doesn't happen again? It's the only place that they can reset and try again tomorrow, right? That's the accountability part. It's like, okay, how many times do I need to hold the mirror up to this child? Keyword, child. I often think even if that kid is 18, I know what I was doing at 18. I can tell you, I still was thinking like a child. Like, hold the mirror up to myself. Often I think, how about we put both of us in the mirror, and I can be like, okay, so I'm going to hold myself accountable so that I can help you hold yourself accountable. So a lot of this work for me is to go, my spiritual understanding of this work is to be a leader, but I often think about the story of Moses. The one time he didn't look in the mirror, he didn't get into the kingdom, right? Being able to look into the mirror and see, like, I'm here. This is my purpose. How do I engage in that work?
Right. Thank you. You know what? We're twins. You know, we were split at birth. I don't know how we got split. You know, we're going to go to break now. Before we go, again, tell everybody again how to get a hold of you. We're going to take a break, and we're going to come back and pick up where we left off.
Everyone can find me at Smith the Educator on Instagram, or via email. It's Deauntra at whentheleaves.org.
All right. Thank you very much. We'll see you in a few.
What if your training isn't enough? The Multicultural Mindset Podcast invites counselors and therapists to unlearn the one-size-fits-all approach. This isn't cultural competence. It's a way of being that brings racialized experiences from the margins to the very center of care. Let's stop pathologizing Black pain and start challenging the system that created the bias in the first place. Visit newseasons.training to subscribe.
Festa della Donna with Esther Graham honors all women far beyond a single day of celebration. Regardless of your race, gender, sexual orientation, or religion, Esther helps you rise to your full potential to live fully in God's plan and to do what you were divinely created to do. Festa della Donna offers programs that help you fulfill your dreams and desires. For more information and to get your free copy of the Festa della Donna Retreat Self-Care Guide, visit fdbwomen.com.
Are you passionate about impacting social change or working towards anti-racism as a society? Are you willing to deconstruct your innermost thoughts, ideas, and beliefs about racism? Then Inflection Point Podcast, Cultivating Change from the Inside Out, is the show for you. Join Anita Russell, Mavis Bauman, and Gail Hunter in open, honest, and deliberate conversations every first and third Wednesday at 3 p.m. Pacific, 6 p.m. Eastern, only on TransformationTalkRadio.com.
Welcome back to the Spiritual Justice Show. I am your host, Eric S. Lee. You can reach me at eric.lee@fullcirclerj.org if you want to do some work with us. We are having a wonderful conversation with Deauntra Smith, CEO of When the Leaves Restorative Consulting. Welcome back, Deauntra, and thanks again for being here. And I want to pick up a little bit where we left off, and you talked about that mirror last time and how it's about self-reflection. And I said we were twins when we left, because that is one of the things that I have been saying. Self-reflection may be one of the most important aspects that people can develop. And it's one of the things that I love about restorative work with young people, because you immediately start teaching that to them. It becomes part of their psyche, especially when they have gotten into trouble. It's okay that you got into trouble. Now it's time for you to accept responsibility for that. And then, look at who you've harmed, and also look at, like you said before, hurt people, but heal people, heal people. Look at how you were harmed and how that might have contributed to the mindset within you that made you think it was okay to harm somebody in the first place, right? And so then the young people are on a path, right? They're on a path that is guided by self-reflection. And so one of the other things we do at Full Circle Restorative Justice is we do community trainings, we do organizational trainings, and we do that work. And our introductory restorative justice training is called Building a Restorative Mindset. And Deauntra, you're an expert in restorative justice. You know the processes, you know the procedures, you know how all the stuff, right? So we do a 4-hour training on building a restorative justice mindset, and it's nothing about process or procedure. We don't even want you to go there, because we want you to build that mindset and that self-reflective mode so that you can color. And I say we're twins too, because, I start my talk and my training with, look, it's no use in me being a restorative justice practitioner and leading a restorative justice organization if this organization can't be restorative, and if I can't be restorative with my wife, my kids, the dog, the people down the street, the dude that just cut me off in traffic. If I can't be there, then what the heck am I doing this work for, right? And so that's where we're aligned. And it's possibly, as I go deeper and talk to more people, maybe it's just all of us. maybe it's just something that gets trained into us, or maybe, it's some of us, but it's really, really important. Because I have seen restorative facilitators and restorative justice professionals who that is not the focus as much. The focus is on how this process and this procedure is going to fix things. And again, I read this book called The 4 Pivots by Sean Ginwright, and it highly recommend it. And one of the quotes that sticks with me from that book is, when dealing with community transformation, the wrong first question is, what do we need to do? The right first question is, who do we need to become? Right? And so that's the whole deal. And that's where we want to live first and build that foundation. So do me a favor, talk a little bit more about the effects and the impacts that maybe you have noticed with young people as you've done this work with them.
Well, but yes. And you said something earlier that really, I'm like, oh, like I'm really drawn to that, to what you said, and about some practitioners who don't really live that. And I would say it's because they're still working with their harm. they're listening with their trauma and not with their restorative ears. And to jump into that with our students, I think about my own work. And a quick story is, when I was first into this work, I was going, like I was really into this work. Like I was learning from people, I was going places. And then to go deep, I lost my brother, right? My brother was not that much younger than me. And I knew all the knowledge. I knew all the systems. I thought I had it all. And then the person closest to me was harmed and I didn't know it. And then the ultimate thing happened where now he's at rest. So it made me reflect on, I know the systems, I know the information, but how am I applying the knowledge to others so that I'm healing, but also modeling how for them to heal? That's the ultimate goal in the conversation that what you're saying is with our students is, everyone, you can say that you have a perfect life, and there is something that is bothering you, and there's something that is happening that might not be always as deep, but it's something that I can be irritated that one day, and then I say something that's harmful to that one person. It has nothing to do with you, right? I could be anxious about a test happening then, and then my friends are overstimulating me, and then I say something harmful, right? There are always moments where you might not understand, but then the applied harm is happening. So we have to always be mindful that when harm is happening, how do I address it? How do I reflect? And how do I create not just a system, but this becomes a way of life for me to acknowledge that even if I harm someone in the moment and I reflect on it, the next day or within an hour, I'm gonna go and find that person and be like, hey, I'm sorry. That it didn't register right. Even if someone comes to me, and especially with students, if you can acknowledge that you did some harm to them, it goes a long way in the future with them.
Yeah, that is that modeling, and thank you for sharing that. And it's funny for me because I bring this up all the time, and it's like, okay, we're both husbands here, right? And we're both fathers, right? And so I've got a wife who understands, and again, it's like this is who I am, right? It's like I try to be a good guy, right? It's like, and I'm human, and I jack stuff up sometimes, right? So I got to be big enough to come and say, okay, my bad. I'm sorry. And I tell people about when it starts with being restorative human first, and I say to them kind of humorously, and my wife agrees with me 100%. It's like I step out of line. It's like, okay, Mr. Restorative Justice. It's like, and you probably you may not get the same exact thing,
Oh no, I get
but
the same exact thing.
there's a different standard that you have to kind of stay living within, and it's beautiful, right? And at the same time, when I hear my wife talking to other people, and she's talking about either our relationship or her stepping out of bounds, and her saying, yeah, and my husband is one of the most understanding and forgiving people, in part because it's his nature, and in other parts because he's trained to do it. It really is heartwarming. And then the biggest compliment that I may have ever gotten was from my daughter. And I don't know if you know this, but my daughter, who's 32 now, was the one who recruited me to restorative justice work. She's an independent restorative justice facilitator as well. And she saw my leadership background and my coaching ability and all that, and kind of recruited me in because she saw as a fit. And so there was a point where she said, Dad, one of the best things you ever done in your life was healed your trauma and pain, so that you didn't give it to us. And that was everything, right? And so talk to us a little bit more about the self accountability that we have as adults, and either the responsibility that we have, or just the opportunity that we have to share that with young people. Because here we are in the spiritual justice, one of the things we want to do is we want to promote this whole community concept of helping our youth and engaging. How do we as adults take better accountability and be more active in supporting our young people moving forward?
Well, I would say that right now, I'm thinking about a couple of different things. Like I'm thinking about post-traumatic slave syndrome. Like that's one of the first things I think about is like why do we treat each other generationally a certain way, right? Is that because of protection? Is that because of generational trauma happening? Um, I know that like looking at the statistics and the data, I know there's a little bit of data here around it, but to prove is we know that if your generation before you has trauma and never healed from it, that it's passed on, and then if we don't address that, then it's passed on again. I think the best thing that's happening to me right now is that my parents are engaged in their therapy and inside their understanding, because having me at 17 and 18, that's a trauma response. Right, like that's, and I think inside the Black community, we're finally starting to get to a point where we can acknowledge that's a trauma response, right? So even me, like I had my son at 25, and a lot of people thought that that was kind of young, and I'm like, ooh, like I don't think that's a trauma response, but that is, it is. I always wanted to be a father. That's one thing that for me is like central to my life is I wanted to raise my children um in a manner that was different than I was raised, right? Like my upbringing is who made me, right? The challenges and the stipulations around that is what made me who I am. But how do I produce my sons without the trauma so that they can take on the things that I have inherited, the good things about that, right? Like my grandmother Eleanor, her love for her kids and her grandkids is unconditional. Like she loves so hard that sometimes you're like, whoa, like hold on, like I need you to back up for a second and let me kind of make the mistakes so I can grow from them. And I think about that with my students is allowing them to give. Like I like to think as myself, I don't like to say I'm a teacher, I'm an educator and an elder. Give the advice, allow them to navigate it, give them the options, like this is the option I think that you can navigate, and this is the option that you can take, right? But just know that both options are going to put you in some conflict. I think we need to realize that productive conflict is okay. To have them go in there and say, hey, like this is a problem for me. How do I navigate this? Okay, let's engage in that conflict. We're good. Let's engage in that. But also I don't know if that's the right word, but giving kids a safety net to be like, here's the boundary, and you can kind of play with that and be like, oh, okay, I'm gonna go here. Like even with my son, sometimes if on inside the football field, he might like I might yell at him, he might yell back. I'm like, whoa, hold on, calm back. We in the heat of the moment. Let's have a conversation after practice about why that's not inappropriate between those two conversations, right? Like there's a lot of things that as educators and elders, we have to be able to give them leadership and allow them to mess up and then learn from it. Because how are we passing that knowledge and that wisdom down to the next generation if we're not giving them opportunities to lead? No one got an opportunity to lead without failing. Failing for me feels like productive conflict. Just get back up and let's try it again.
Right. Great. Thank you. Thank you so much for sharing that. Deauntra, we're gonna get into some questions that you gave to us, and they're important. And how about telling people how, and the question is, how can I support, if you're a listener or a viewer, how can I support the work with Deauntra? How can tell people how they can support the work with you?
For me, it's I think being able to reach out and see me as someone that's a connector, someone that is ethical, someone that has integrity in the work. If you want to get this work done, reach out. Like we sometimes I feel like, and I don't want to speak for you, but I think sometimes as someone that's an expert in the work, we like to try to own everything. When like, hold on, like there are multiple other people that are expert and not and better than me at the work that I can reach out to and be like, hey, I need support. My two mentors, I reach out to them at least twice a week. At least twice a week and be like, hey, I don't understand this right now. Please walk me through this. And that is okay, because then that means that the integrity in the work is being done well.
So it's almost like you're inviting people to both reach out and work with you and just query to see how you can support. And it also seems like a call for more forums, like maybe not necessarily like this, but places where we can gather and
Yes.
just bounce ideas off of each other and grow and learn and set standards together on what's best.
Yeah, I think for us as practitioners or people who want to learn how to be practitioners, what is, like we talk about systems, what is number one? I think sometimes each system has, like, if we're thinking about progressive restorative discipline, that's kind of the first thing that we're thinking about, or are we thinking about community building? Because you can't do one without the other. So like, what is the baseline that all of us want to work from?
Great. Okay, great. Thanks for sharing that. And then and before we go on, give them one more time. We want to make sure nobody's lost on they love Deauntra. How do they get a hold of you?
Yes, so on Instagram, Smith the Educator, or via email is deauntra@whentheleaves.org.
Okay, great. So the next question, who can I connect with so that this work is being uplifted nationally? Talk about that question a little bit and how
Yeah,
you want viewers to take that on.
yeah. So for me, it's I'm always at a national, international, whatever level that I can get to, that I can be supportive and someone can support me. I think NACRJ is a great networking one, so that we're always constantly sharing information. But um for me, I teach the process that is best until I know better. If I can find a better process, I will educate myself on that and teach a better process. So for me, it's always like, what are you doing well, and how can I recreate that so that our students and families are becoming educated too? So it's always a call out to, if you have a better process, please share with me.
That's great. You know, I'm on a quest. And I can't remember if I talked to you about this or not, but it is a couple things that guide me. One is Dr. King's words. And when I got involved with the restorative justice work and I saw it in the court system and I saw what a difference it was making in the judicial system, in a different way. And one of the reasons was back to that accountability piece and teaching that at a very young age. And so that people could use that as the baseline on how they were moving forward and getting further help for themselves so they can heal and learn and grow and heal some more and become whole humans, and then really find, who they were as human and what their contributions were. I just saw it as a way. And then I started doing work in schools, and it was like, okay, this is going to prevent them from even getting into that judicial work that I was doing. So we need to be tying these things together. So our organization does those, jointly, as well as the community work. We've got 3 pillars. And back to Dr. King's words, is like, so seeing that system and seeing the development of that system work and seeing individuals like you doing that work, I was like, I have seen the mountaintop. I may not get there with you, but I have seen the mountaintop. And so if we can just keep this going,
Yes.
I know that we're creating a better way. And then the other thing is, it's a quote by a scientist, right? And it's like, the scientist is Buckminster Fuller. And he said, you don't change a thing by fighting against it. You
Yes.
change a thing by creating a system that renders that old thing obsolete. And so that kind of works off what you're saying about, we need to be reaching out. We need to be continually tweaking the system to make it better and stronger and more efficient, and the right system, so that when we're done with it, you can't look at the current school system. You can't look at the current judicial system and say, this is better than that. It's like comparing a horse and buggy to a C8 Corvette. No,
Yeah.
we're taking the C8 Corvette here now because we can't do that anymore.
Also, I love that too, but in the system, the number one thing that people have to remember too is keep the heart in the system. That is always the base of it. It's like, what is the heart in these systems? Because sometimes the system get the rolling, and then we forget the heart piece, and then that's how it becomes process. And I'm like, man, let's remember that like if people want to do spiritual work, you got to do hard work in the process. And I love let's go. Like for me, it gets me excited. Be like, hey, I know that I'm not fighting the battle by myself. I got hundreds of people out there that's ready to fight with me.
Yeah, and the only thing I would say and add to what you said about keep the heart in the system is, as I see it, it is a heart-based system.
Yes.
And so it's going to be there. I mean, it's just how we, it's like what I talk to people about is like, and you may push it, you're a little bit further ahead with implementation in schools than I am. But one of the things that I talk about is how we need to keep it going and keep working this system to create humans. And the challenge always is, okay, I want you guys to be restorative, but we don't have time to do that. We don't have time for circles every day. We don't have time. It's like, you want us to change the system, but you ain't got no time, right? No, we need to create the system. You know what? Yeah, you got content, you got mathematics, you got language arts, you got social study, you got all those things, you got all that content that is important, but we feel that's most important is creating humans.
Yes.
And teaching young people how to be humans and humanity first. And once we do that, then the content. but they got it backwards. And again, it's like, I respect that that's what I'm dealing with, and I'm going to just keep slithering in there and making sure that we are connected. But it's like that is the point that you just brought up a little bit.
I wish we had like hours to talk, because we could keep going about this.
We will.
The one thing that I think about too, what you just said, is bringing all of it together. So I was thinking about what you said earlier with Dr. King, and as one of the pillars in that thought process. I'm actually in a phase now where I am blending Dr. King's understanding with Fred Hampton's understanding, that we need everybody together to change this system, and we can't do it by ourselves. But also, we got to work in a space where we are pushing against the oppressor and in a way that brings that unconditional love. So I'm kind of in a phase right now where I'm bouncing and trying to intertwine both of those conversations.
That's great. So you just brought something up. Yeah, one, when we get off, we're going to stay connected. Again, yes. I'm going to be more committed to connect with you even more, that we've talked again. And promise me you'll come up and do a follow-up, because we talked about something and a spirituality class that you are launching in the fall with young people. And I'm interested to follow up and see how that goes. So Deauntra, we're going to have at least one more conversation on the show, and then I'm going to commit to just reaching out. You may be my mentor, where I'm going to be bothering you, sir. I'm going to be that
Never
guy calling you twice a week, like you say you do your mentors. So yes. Yeah, again, last time, tell everybody how to connect with you, and with that, give us one last thing that you'd like to leave our viewers with to think about as we move forward.
Absolutely. So Smith the Educator on IG, and then Deauntra at whentheleaves.org. And one thing that I'm going to go back and I'm going to refer to my great grandmother, Clarice Colby, and I'm going to leave the quote with, if the leaves are moving, you're driving too fast. Please take the time to see everyone and understand everyone, because you never know that 30 seconds can change someone's life.
Deauntra, thank you so much. This has been my favorite show thus far. Thank you. We'll have you back. Everybody, thanks for joining us. This is Eric Lee signing off from the Spiritual Justice Show. If you want to get a hold of me, eric.lee@fullcirclerj.org. And hey, stay connected. Keep working, keep growing on yourself. And when you get there, you think that you can't go any further, or you don't know what the next step is. Maybe that next step is being a trusted adult for a young person.
Yes.
Have a great day. Thank you for joining me, Eric S. Lee, on the Spiritual Justice Show. You've heard me say it before. Restorative justice alone can't get us there. Repairing a wound matters, but if the system keeps cutting, the wounds return. Social justice fights for equity, but if we forget the human spirit, policy feels hollow. Transformative justice shifts culture, but without compassion, the changes just don't last. That's why spiritual justice completes the circle. It heals the heart while changing the system. It restores dignity while shifting culture. It brings spirit back into justice. And that's where you come in. Tune in each first and third Tuesday at 10 a.m. Pacific Time on the Transformation Network as we rise up, spiritual justice warriors. This means you choosing courage, compassion, and creativity in a call to action. Until next time, walk with courage, lead with compassion, live with spirit, because justice becomes here in the soul, and it continues with warriors like us. Join our community at spiritualjustice.net.